And look, you guys, we're really elevating the vibes. Not only have I got my pink velvet couch now in my pink office, but I got a nice little Alex Earl light for our mutters and putters to put on my phone. Okay, so I am actually prepping and pretty excited for this important call I have tomorrow. That I can't tell you what it is yet, but hopefully I will be able to sometime soon. And I'm gonna crimp my hair. I love you very much, my love. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I'm gonna crimp my hair in anticipation of my important meeting tomorrow. And while I do that, I'm gonna talk to you guys. We're gonna have a conversation about parting ways with someone without anyone needing to be the villain in the situation or in the narrative. So I titled this Mutter and Putter. We are heating up here. I titled this Mutter and Putter, Parting Ways Gracefully, No Villains Needed. And I want to say too that sometimes when we're parting ways with someone, whether this was a romantic relationship that we're ending or they're ending, or a friendship that is ending on, two people parting ways, or business relationship, whatever it is, ideally, and what is the most seamless and feels the most graceful is when there's mutuality in that, and as in you're both on the same page about things ending and it being best for you to go your separate ways, and there's love. There's a tone of love in that ending. So obviously, that's ideal. That's what we would want. And sometimes we are lucky enough that that's how it goes. Both people are on the same page. It's, sad, but both people feel right about that decision and that development. And both people are able to conduct themselves with as much love and grace and appreciation for what the relationship was as possible. But that's not always the case. And, actually, a lot of times things are ending because there's various ways we're not seeing eye to eye, right? And there are irreconcilable differences, and we're not necessarily understanding each other, and we may not be able to end it on those terms of we both understand, we both totally accept and are in agreement around moving on. But a lot of times that's not the case, because there's a reason things are ending, right? So obviously sometimes we get really fortunate and we get to have it be graceful, but a lot of times we don't. And it's really, really uncomfortable. So there's a quote from the Motorcycle Diaries movie that has always resonated with me and that I love, where basically, if you have not seen the movie, it features a very handsome Gael Garcia Bernal as a young Che Guevara, and a complicated figure, but this movie follows a young Che Guevara on a motorcycle trip he took with his friend around Latin America, when he was young, and this journey and a lot of kind of what he saw and interfaced with prompting. It's kind of like the prequel to like everything we would know him for, right? Prompting his worldviews that then kind of prompted his actions in history. So anyway, it's a really good movie, and in a lot of ways, the movie is about friendship too, and it's about kind of like it's him and his friend, and they are on this epic voyage together, and they have plenty of differences, and there's different ways that they are interacting with their experiences and different they're just two separate people with a relationship going on a journey together. And there's a quote at the beginning of the movie that's like, this isn't a tale of heroic feats. This is just about two paths that ran parallel for a while. And I find that sentiment really beautiful as it pertains to like friendship and seasonality and like what it is to have your path be running parallel with someone. And this is especially pertinent as I am have been working on behind the scenes on my course Social Sphere, which is about to go on sale, which is all about friendship and community building and belonging in adulthood. It's all about the like enriching our holistic social life. And there's so much in that realm philosophically, and maybe we have different perspectives in the program. I share a lot of like philosophies and ways of orienting towards friendships that have been really effective for me and fruitful for me, and just ultimately tuning into the landscape of all of that and providing strategies, best practices, and mindsets, right? Philosophies around friendship. And one of the things we talk about in Social Sphere is the inevitable ebb and flow of friendship, and adult friendships, adult relationships being very voluntary, right? So sometimes we have certain connections, certain relationships that last a lifetime, right? That's amazing. That's so cool. I think one of the most beautiful things about friendship is just like really being witnessing and really being witnessed in multiple phases of life through multiple evolutions of our identity. And some friendships are some paths are meant to run parallel to each other for a lifetime. Some paths are meant to, they're gonna, and that's where I say there's like a very natural ebb and flow that happens even in active lifelong friendships where, there's an ebb and a flow. There's times of more closeness and alignment, and then there's times where you're kind of like exploring different things, evolving in different ways. And that doesn't have to preclude the love that you have for each other or the support that you have for each other. But all friendships, each friendship connection meets us in different facets of ourselves and is really unique and valuable because of that. And then when we're looking at a whole, I call it the social sphere, like your social solar system, your social network. When we're looking at that holistically, like feeling really expressed in your life and who you are, and like met and witnessed and seen and like satiated in the different facets of yourself through different connections, through, I call it diversifying your emotional assets. That's what I say with my clients. it brings so much richness to our life. And it also takes when we approach it as such, where we're really like appreciating each relationship for what it is instead of trying to force it into something that it's not, or that it's not anymore. We get to like really receive from that connection for what it's meant to be in our lives. And my dad had a hilarious, absurd expression that I don't think he coined, but he told me about, which is that relationships are like farts. If you have to force it, it's shit. Classic Greg Boyd joke. Oh, hi, Emma. Yay, I'm so happy you're here live. The desire to label someone narcissistic or avoidant, etc., after a breakup is so real. Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm kind of priming this conversation for. Hell yeah, I'm so happy you're here, Emma. Thanks for all your comments too afterwards on the videos. Hey, I love to see it. Yeah. So anyway. All of this being kind of foundationally, contextually set in the philosophical belief that different connections have different lifelines, right? And not all connections, not all friendships are meant to last forever. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if things are messy in the parting of ways, where we're resisting the kind of inevitability of, okay, I didn't necessarily anticipate this, but like this was a friendship that was meant for a season or a chapter of our lives. Our paths were meant to run parallel for a while. And now our paths are going in different directions. When we can just kind of like see that, and I'm talking about this in the realm of friendship, but this applies for dating relationships, breakup. Yeah, we're talking, like Emma said, like breakups of all sorts, romantic, platonic, and platonic friendship breakups can be just as painful, if not more, than a romantic breakup. And also, like, there's just a bit of a different flavor in that, people have their own orientations toward this, if they're non-monogamous or whatever. But we typically have, like, if we're monogamous and we're approaching dating as such, like, there's limited real estate for that role in our lives. So where it's not feeling aligned anymore, we want to open that space for a more aligned relationship to be able to come into our lives and to the life of the other person, right? And I believe there's really a lot of dignity and love and respect and actually like letting people go. So obviously where we have an attachment, and it can be really confronting. We're not always on the same page about it, or we don't always feel the same about it. And that can be it can get kind of messy and emotional to navigate. But it's easier where we diversify and like nurture like connections holistically, such that we have a support system outside of this connection to even, be supported in like whatever's coming up for us in the ending of this connection, the paths diverging. I also think of like the Robert Frost poem, the two paths diverging in a yellow wood, or, I know that's not exactly how it goes, but that's the visual, right? But I think there's tremendous freedom and grace and just kind of like flow and acceptance that is really summed up well in that quote from the Motorcycle Diaries for me of, this isn't a tale of heroic feats, or maybe it is for you, maybe it is a tale of heroic feats, but just the story of two paths running parallel for a while. And that can help a lot. It's also in dating too, where it's like, and I can really, really attest to this from my dating coaching, relationship coaching work with my clients, and then also my time as a matchmaker prior to that, of like, it's really about, is this a match or is this not a match? And is this a match now, right? Sometimes it's a match for a season and then it's no longer a match. It's time, the paths run parallel, it's time to diverge. So it's when we really keep that in mind, and I totally recognize it's when we're hurt or in our feelings around this, like it can be more challenging to hold that perspective, to like reach for that perspective of like, oh, maybe this isn't about who's right and who's wrong, who fucked up in XYZ ways, and like who is righteous here. It's actually just about, is this a match or is this not a match? It's actually just about alignment, not about who's right and wrong. Hi, Ashwin. What do? I do relationship and dating coaching, and I coach and kind of create content around living a fulfilling social life, relationship skills, and magnetism and self-confidence, among creative lifestyle, things like that. So anyway, what gets clunky is where one person is saying this is not a match for me, or this is no longer a match for me, and the other person is like, well, it is for me, it still feels like it for me. But ultimately, zooming out, we get to recognize that like what makes anything a match is the mutuality of it. So even where I often say, like, or we have the mantra in my world of like, I only want to date people who want to date me, right? Like, I only want to be friends with people who want to be friends with me. So ultimately, it's not even a match anymore if one person no longer feels that it's a match, right? Because then you're like, there isn't mutuality there. So this can be hard to accept if we don't want to, right? Or this can be upsetting that it's emotional territory. But where we can really connect to and attune to that perspective of, this is about, is this a match or it's not? Is it like, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with someone just because you don't feel synergy with them, right? It's more about the specific chemistry between them. It's relative. Literally, relationships, it's all relative. So that can help us take things less personally. And obviously, when we're like, we may still be disappointed, we may still be butthurt. And from that place of being butthurt, like, we're going to want to protect our egos, right? Like, we're going to want to, it's very natural, right, to spin a narrative that makes the other person wrong, or that rejects the other person because we feel rejected, right? It's a self-protection. But it's so nuanced, it's challenging, and it is so much more liberating to be able to allow the paths that we're running parallel to diverge, and to appreciate what you were for each other for the season that you were. And yes, acknowledge that maybe none of us are ever going to be perfect about navigating anything, even where we do our best to like have grace and tact and consideration. But as my dad said, if we have to force it, it's shit. So, inevitably there's going to be some clunkiness, some things probably both people could have potentially navigated better, but like ultimately it is so liberating and so empowering to be able to part ways with someone, and yeah, give yourself a little space to, caretake, your little one inside that's like, wham, they didn't blah 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 and like, like give yourself a little space to like allow that to breathe and navigate that privately and separately. But like, one of my teachers often says, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. Which means, logic is kind of offline when we're like really in a reaction, when we're really in emotional reaction. So it's natural for that to come up, but it is so liberating, so empowering to surf that privately and to really interface with the other person as we're parting ways in a way that we're going to be proud of in a year when we're not in a hot state anymore, right? And it can be so tempting to just be right, to be righteous in that moment, and to like make a jab at the other person and like, effectively reject them so we feel more control over not feeling feelings of rejection ourselves, right? But like, it feels so much better to not give in to that more base impulse to like just get the last word in and make a jab and make the other person the villain, right? Spin the narrative and the dynamic of like, only one of us can be right, one of us is wrong, one of us is the victim, one of us is the villain, right? And we're going to feel so much more integrity with ourselves where we don't let that part, that very natural part of ourselves that feels hurt, like take the mic and be like, well, yeah, right? And I'm talking about in terms of like how we're interfacing or communicating with the other person, but it's also about how we're telling the story of what happened to, how we're telling the story to ourselves and to others about what happened between us and that person, right? So it's convenient. It's in a certain way easier. It's kind of like the junk food version of like, it tastes good, it feels good, there's like an instant gratification in like, oh, this person sucks and they totally are, to make the other person the villain, right? There's a lot more like holding of multiple facets and letting it be okay for paths to run parallel for a while and then to diverge in seeing, okay, yeah, like I'm hurt by XYZ things. I don't like how they navigated XYZ elements of this parting of ways. I don't agree with this, whatever, right? But like, that's different than like needing to make it binary. Like, this person is a villain, this person is the villain in my story. And ultimately, when we do that, it's not very empowering to us, right? And it's just a reaction a lot of times. And yes, sometimes another person like royally fucks up and like truly does not do right by you, and we can be really unimpressed by that and hurt by that and like, be with that and its multitudes. That's very real. But what I'm getting at here is that sometimes we can't, not just sometimes, but like we can't control what other people do with themselves. But in just kind of bringing language to this together right now in this conversation, and maybe you guys, I'm curious to hear about your experiences with something like this or your thoughts around this, but like just bringing some language to this right now, like hopefully helps to when you're in a reaction, perhaps when and if you find yourself in a scenario where the convenient narrative and the place you want to go to with yourself is just making the other person a villain and making it like really black and white and binary. Maybe there's a little space in planting this seed now that opens up for, like, this maybe isn't as like satisfying to the part of me that really wants to be righteous right now, right? But like, what if I let this be? I could validate all of the ways that I feel, and I can let this be just paths diverging. What if I could bring some like acceptance to this? And of course, I have my reasons that may be affirmed of like why this is no longer a match for me. But what if we could just plant this seed right now to open up a little space for ourselves and open up the option in those moments where we don't need to carry so much bitterness and resentment with us via making another person the villain beyond, I just want to like propose opening up more to that possibility, because ultimately, you ever hear when you hold a hot coal, or like anger is like a hot coal that you're holding on to, that like you want to throw at the other person, but you're really just burning your own hand. Obviously, we're going to have anger. Obviously, there are injustices in this world, and it's okay to have anger. But I think there's a lot of times when we can go to that space with it where that's not the only option. And it might feel empowering in the moment, but it's not ultimately the most empowering or liberating choice. And also knowing that, like, when we hold on to that jadedness, we carry that with us into future relationships. And that impacts our energetic attractiveness, our energetic magnetism for others and for other connections, present and future. So that's kind of on our side of the street. And then I also want to name that, like, sometimes someone else is going to be really determined to make you the villain. And that's a really, really uncomfortable thing to be with for us, right? Like, it absolutely sucks, especially with someone that we've had intimacy with, who we have cared about. It absolutely sucks to feel that we are the villain in someone else's story, right? And it can be challenging not to like really internalize that, or to like need to make them the villain so we can deflect that discomfort. Thank you. Thanks, Joey. Thanks for joining. And that's essentially what we're doing when we're making someone the villain, or they're making us the villain. Simply put, right? Obviously, there's different elements in different situations. But that's ultimately what we're doing. We're just deflecting the profound discomfort of not syncing up anymore. Your hair looks amazing. Oh, thank you. This is my favorite way to heat style my hair, with this crimper, this like mermaid hair. So it helps a lot to just see it for what it is. And I also want to validate too, like, it absolutely sucks when someone else is determined to make you out as the villain. It absolutely sucks to feel that there is like someone out there who holds a lot of animosity towards you and like thinks you're a fucking asshole. And sometimes it happens, even where we are navigating ourselves as best we can, likely not perfectly, but as best we can. It really sucks and it hurts. But people are going to do what they're going to do. And they're going to spin the narrative the way that they're going to spin the narrative in order to, do whatever they need to do with their current capacity to like avoid really uncomfortable feelings that maybe they're wanting to deflect or not fully reflect on. So you ever hear, like, if any of you are active on social media or do things publicly in any way, like, people often say that, you're not going to be for everyone. Like, as much, and the more, and I say this a lot in my programs and in my work with my clients around like social magnetism, it's like the goal is to show up potently as yourself in your authentic energy, holding true to your authentic values. I subscribe for you. Hey, yeah, yay, welcome. Thanks for subscribing. It really means a lot when you guys do that. I really appreciate it. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So we want to show up potently in our truth. And inevitably, what we're doing in that is like, we're not for everyone. Not everyone is for us. That is part of what makes special or like connections, true connections, so special, is that like we don't have a true connection, a true synergy, a true resonance with every single person on the planet. And if we're trying to, we're just watering down our potency, our magnetism, such that the people who are going to be really attracted to us and are going to be our people can't even see that, can't even come to realize that, because they're just getting a really diluted version of ourselves, right? So inevitably, as we embody our magnetism, people who are not our people, magnets also repel. The people who are not our people are going to be redirected, right? And we actually want that. We actually want that because, again, there's like dignity and respect within that. They can go find the people that are their people that they genuinely feel resonance with. So there's a lot of freedom in being okay with people responding, reacting, or perceiving you however they're going to perceive you. And it's not easy. Of course, we want to be liked. Of course, we don't like it, or for the most part, some people do kind of like it when people don't like them, right? But like coming back to what I was saying around like social media, or if you're doing anything public in the world, there's gonna be people who don't like it, or it rubs them the wrong way, or it activates something really confronting in them that they don't want to look at. And that's okay. But like, let's call it for what it is. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. But the more we have that muscle strong in ourselves of like accepting ourselves and being true to ourselves, the less we're going to internalize that of other people making us out to be the villain, right? And I think there's a big theme which pertains to like a lot of stuff in our world today around like, how do we hold ourselves and others accountable while not erasing their humanity, right? And it's obviously really challenging in a war or death situation, and that where there's a blatant disregard for if someone's totally disregarding your humanity, right? It's really hard to find it in yourself. It can be really challenging to see and kind of acknowledge their humanity, right? But we can do it. It is possible. It's not maybe accessible at every single moment, but it is possible. And it is liberating and it is empowering. And it does allow us to broadcast our magnetism. And like one of the biggest like diffusers of impediments to our magnetism is just like carrying around a lot of resentment and projection and unprocessed bitterness, right? So it's not even really about them. It's about what am I going to do with my energy? How can I give myself the most freedom and genuine empowerment here? So, sometimes people are going to paint us as the villain. And it's not ours to, why did I freeze? I don't know if I see myself frozen on screen. Can you guys hear me right now and or see me, or is it just frozen? Crap. All right. Well, I feel like I kind of made my point. I don't know if you guys can still hear or see me, but I'm gonna it seems like the video wants to be complete. You're a black screen. Okay. All right. I'm gonna end it. Oh, you can hear. Okay, great. Ah! Okay. Well, I'm back. Okay. Can you see me now? Can you see me moving again? I can see myself again. Can you see me now? Yes. Okay, great. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what happened there. Anyway, I feel like that was probably my sign, my cue to be complete. I feel like I've said what I wanted to say. I hope that was interesting and helpful for you guys, that you related to that in some way. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, feel free, if you're watching also the replay, you can comment replay so I know who you are and we can connect in the future. And I'd love to hear what this brought up for you. And I will catch you soon. Bye, Emma. Good to see you live. Bye, everyone who joined live, and bye, humans watching in the future. Thanks for listening.